Hello everybody, this is Covert Reality. We are going to be mentioning some very important things today. I wanted to get together right away to say this because I'm feeling it. I'm in the moment and it needs to happen this way. I find it the most natural and I'm being a little bit more real. I'm not as set back as I was at the radio station. I'm able to sit here in the comfort of my own home with my guitar and while I'm thinking, and I can just press record on my voice recorder and off we go. So what I wanted to say was a lot of things that we need to take in perspective, like the refugee situation. I want to have this whole episode to be dedicated to the links and the happenings and events of sorts that have been progressively taking place in the last couple of years in town here in southern Ontario, in Galt, Ontario, which was formerly Galt, Preston, and Hespeler, but before that would be Mohawk Territory, General Haldimand Tract. But it's been changed to Cambridge, Ontario, in 74 or 73 when amalgamation happened. And I've said this many times before, but I like to just mention this. But in 74, we had the private banking system come in and took over Bank of Canada. So the Rothschilds kind of came in and took over our banking system in 74. So they had to amalgamate in 73 and made this Cambridge into a corporation called Cambridge. So now this is what's happening in Cambridge. And I've been keeping track of this stuff, so this is a red alert, and I don't mean to be all, to make everyone feel like there's going to be major danger, but we do have things in process right now, but I just want to go through some things, but I want to mention one thing before I do. Like, there are many things that line up here to revealing something that is for sure, event is going to take place somewhere in southern Ontario, specifically Waterloo region or Cambridge itself. And I will explain why, but before I do explain those lines that had all lined up and added up, we have good things in process. I mean, we have the United States the President of the United States, Donald Trump. He's not kidding. They, for the longest time, they knew what was going on, and now there's a huge change in policy, and ever since Donald Trump has been clear about about screening and getting rid of immigrants and rescreening if they come back in, that's just normal based on the outcome of a nefarious plan. So he knows that, and so he's taking precautionary measures to avoid Western civilization to be taken down. He knows that. So as soon as he started being vocal about that, what happened in Canada here? They all went nuts. They were like, oh no, they didn't know what to do. There was a lot of weird things going on. A lot of red faces, worry, people starting to be on the news that are part of the Canadian legislative body starting to trash Trump and what he's doing and stuff. And it just was kind of interesting. So I'm trying to think well, what is it? What's going on here? There's these people must be the people that are involved in the New World Order because if they weren't, they should be happy. But what had happened in Canada, we ended up getting more like, oh, hey, just come here. Like, come here, all the refugees, come here. Now, we've already seen, like, we have big hearts. I mean, we could probably handle that. But it's, quite obvious what's been happening to other Western nations. Look at France. I mean, look at Europe. They've been taken over by it. The flux of the immigrants are so strong that it's creating a intentional overflux on the welfare system. And this is a big thing because they can bring in martial law once they they can crash the economy by saying that the pocket of the purse, I guess, of the public trust only has a certain amount that goes out to people in need, and when there's too many people in need, that they have the right to bring in martial law. Now, this is the side of it that is very serious in Canada. They're actually aiming for this, but what is more important about this is that they relied on Hillary Clinton to win the last election in the United States to be able to further more of that plan. Now they've got a juggernaut because now next week, this is what I want to say, just to not to make this a worrisome thing, but we need to be very, very vigilant and cautious. We need to be very open with our representatives right now at this point, because they are building underground bunkers and they are making tunnels and they are trying to find their ways to their bunkers now more than ever. So there's that side of it too. But what I wanted to say was that this next week, like in next week, so it's kind of a bummer. I wish it was today. It was kind of a drummer. I almost said there, but it's kind of a bummer because I wish it was today or yesterday that they had talked. But Donald Trump is going to be talking to our Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau. I mean, Pierre Trudeau's son, Justin Trudeau. Maybe he will be talking to Pierre Trudeau too. But anyway, he's talking to Justin Trudeau in a week, and he's going to be really telling him, like, hey, the game's over, little potato. Because the game's over for their bit there. And, Justin Trudeau was just a tool, a plant that was just kind of already schooled for a long time in Buckingham Palace to be where he is right now, and just to be under mind control and talk about carbon taxation, how amazing it is. That's the only way that you could ever get a human being to rationally or irrationally say something like that. So we have a meeting next week with the Prime Minister and the President of the United States getting together, and this is going to be really great. I feel like some really great things could happen out of that meeting. But this is why I want to have this episode, because between now and next week gives Canada a grand opportunity to do something here, to create a problem, but they're going to have to do it really quickly. And I'm going to explain here during the segment, and this is very important. It'll probably be a little bit shorter of a segment this time. I just want to kind of say these things and then I'll wrap it up. But this is all of the evidence that I have come about in Cambridge, Ontario, that gives me very good reason to give a warning out to everybody that we may be headed for something, and we hope that it's been assembled now because of the special operations and CIA and the better people in the CIA that have been helping to negotiate and literally re-educate a lot of people that have been literally steering our oppression in the last 70 years. So they're going to have to be renegotiated and re-educated to be better people, or else they can just put their, honestly, there's people in the Science League out there that are trying to, obviously throw one over us to pretend that we don't know what we're talking about. When we do, we know we're being sprayed by barium, strontium, and aluminum, and manganese, and desiccated red dried blood cells. There's so many other things too, like lithium and possibly mercury, all sorts of different elements of metals and stuff that are disruptors and conductors. So we need to be very vigilant and take that out of our bodies too, and we're finding there's technology to get rid of that, and we understand that. But we need to never turn a blind eye on the fact that we are being sprayed. We can't just sit back and think about the advantages we can get from the technology from the spraying, because you need to talk about that you're spraying nanotechnology into our atmosphere, into our bodies, and creating a lot of like nerve damage, all sorts of stuff. But getting back to the evidence that suggests that there may be something happening here in Waterloo region, and it's very, I find it very, very interesting what has been taking place here in the last 2 years. So I'm just going to start off by saying that in the last 2 years, these things have happened. Now, I put a video on YouTube. It's called Preparing for Civil Unrest in Cambridge, Ontario. And or signs of preparing for civil unrest in Cambridge, Ontario. So just saying that like there's signs, because there are signs of preparing for civil unrest. One being the evacuation area sign that's right by the bus terminals that were put up last February or January. So it would have been 2016 in January. That these evacuation area signs were put up at all bus terminals in Waterloo region. I'm not quite sure if that's Ontario or if it's just Waterloo region. So there's evacuation area signs put up at the bus terminals, folks. Why don't you go to the bus terminals and look around the outer areas of the bus terminals to go look for that sign. In Cambridge, in Galt here, it's right beside the armoury at the back of the bus terminal on Wellington Street, or whatever that street is when it turns past Main. So you got that. And then you've got the security fencing that's facing outward all around the armoury. That was brand new fencing just put up there, so they're getting ready for civil unrest for some reason. They're getting ready for a flux of people that may get in. So they're putting theirs up. So they've been told that there's going to be an operation going on from the government or the Department of Defense. There's going to be an operation going on or something. Maybe I shouldn't put out those names out there of government places, but I really don't, I wouldn't surprise me. So this is really serious, okay? So this is last summer, the fencing was put in. So it would have been like May or June that the fence was put in of 2016. So there's another sign. There's two signs there of preparing for civil unrest. And then they just put a ground vehicle tank in front of the armory. And with a plaque on the side of it that says, I don't know exactly what it says, but it does mention that the Afghanistan war from 2001 to 2014, and says this bogus story about how they fought hard and stuff like that. But really, that was all a planned, staged war on terror that is totally going in the garbage right now. Okay. All the technology has been used against us in the bushes and ever since World War II. It's all kind of hitting all those players in a really big corner right now. It's putting them all in a corner. But this is where I want to get to, is because now that tank there was put in like August, September, a little bit later, I think, maybe July, August, somewhere around there. And and it's like just incredibly huge. They had a small little World War II cannon out there, and before, and they replaced it with, it looks like a fully operational ground vehicle. It's sitting out there that may just look like it's sitting there without any operable guts in it, but I don't know. It just wouldn't surprise me, But anyway, so that all happened last year. So I put a video about that on YouTube, and you can go check that out. Signs of preparing for civil unrest, and it should come up. It shows an evacuation sign with the green sign right on the actual YouTube thumbnail clip. So then that's 2016. So now in 2017, or even last year, they also in Cambridge had plans to do some development at the old post office on Water Street. And it just so happens to be exactly right in between two speculated locations that were recently built in the last 11 years. And one being the City Hall of Cambridge, the Cambridge City Hall. That was a very interesting building of how that got built. For a year before it was built, before the foundation was done and they actually started building it, they worked underground for about a year doing something. Because if you remember, if anyone remembers, you can go back and check it out, for even on Google Maps or Google Earth. For a long time, you just see gravel in there. It might even still be like that right now. I think it's probably been updated. But where it was just gravel for the longest time at City Hall. I remember when City Hall was up and running for years, and I went and checked out on Google Maps, and it just showed the dirt mound. But see, I lived right behind the new City Hall on Cambridge Street, so near the bottom by City Hall there. So I was able to always see how they were going about their development. And I remember riding my bike past there and thinking to myself, wow, it's been like a year. It's just been a flat field with a couple mounds of sand and a trailer. And I remember one old fella, and I don't remember his name or who it was, just some guy, an older guy. And he did have a few drinks in him, but it was right by the Kiwi restaurant, Kiwi bar, right by City Hall on Dixon Street. And but the City Hall wasn't built yet, and so I just remember riding my bike over a bunch of sand and gravel, and this guy yells over to me, "Hey, they're not even doing. They're building something underneath there. They're doing something there. They're like under the trailer or like digging a hole or something under there. They're working under there." And I didn't understand really what the guy was saying. I found it very interesting and stuff, and I kept it in mind. And I just kind of thought, I just couldn't piece anything together at that point in time. That was in 2006. I just couldn't piece it together then. Okay, now this is something that I remember now because it's fit into something. And I've mentioned on the last episode that I was in Canada Village and I drew a line from the City Hall to another place that was built, and they wanted it by the edge of the river, but we all got together to save the sculptor garden and the walkway along our Grand River here, so people could enjoy the walkway along the river, and it wouldn't be blocked by a big Dunfield theater where you couldn't, walk by anymore because it's just a big block building right off the river. You just can't have it. In 1920, in the City Hall minutes, there's talk about where wasn't supposed to be any development whatsoever along the river at all. So now look at what you got, right? You get the wrong kind of people in, and they stay in for too long. Our mayor Doug Craig and Ken Sealing from Kitchener, these guys are buddies, and they're going down. And they know inside they're going down. It's just that they just need to stop doing what they're doing and start to be a good person, because their time's running out. Yeah, and there's going to be people, and I'm telling you, as soon as Donald Trump meets up with Justin Trudeau, there's going to be a topple of all the evil that's in Canada here, trying to put us under a carbon tax based on the massive fraud that's been going on. But see, there's a lot of players in Agenda 21 that depend on carbon taxation, and that's how they've been getting cocky over the years, because there's restaurant owners here, Monograms Coffee. I don't say anything about any restaurant unless I know that they've broken the law before. Monograms Coffee roasters in Canada and Cambridge here in Galt, they don't even have the proper filtration unit for their filter that's their roaster stack. That's up on top of their building, and that's another story. But they didn't have the official any other roaster place that doesn't have a proper filtration unit that reduces the gaseous output and the sound and the debris and stuff from the pipe. If they don't have that, other companies have been shut down and have their license revoked. So for some magical reason, I even had to take them to court over this because I lived above there and I had their fumes going in my window. So it's just really unfortunate. I just got done renovating a little small studio apartment so I could work on and live there and work on my art and get into music and my art again. And I just couldn't live there because I thought, well, this summer I'm going to want to open my windows. I can't have this thing out here. It's on a balcony. We have to move this. Anyway, just to get to the point, that guy's pompousness was so bad that he couldn't even have a conversation with me. He just said, "I'm not losing my business," and treated me like a bag of crap, like I wasn't worth anything. And he drives around his Porsche and thinks he's all cool and stuff. So I don't mind saying these things about people like this because they don't deserve any sort of respect. He honestly really is good buddies with the city too, and good, with Mayor Craig, and always does events for Mayor Craig. And he's also going to be moving into the old post office thing too with Mayor Craig. So I figured maybe he's one of the elite too, because I'll just cut to the chase. Dunfield Theatre, that was supposed to be alongside the river, if you draw a line right from City Hall on the map, you just look at the middle back of City Hall section of their building has an elevator shaft. So if you were to draw a line from that elevator shaft at the back of the building at Cambridge City Hall, draw a line to the Dunfield Theatre underneath the stage, because underneath the stage is a speculated elite bunker. Cambridge Elite. Bunker for the Cambridge Elite. So supposedly it's for the Cambridge Elite, okay? A bunker that has 10 by 10 foot thick walls that are literally like solid cubes of 10 feet by 10 feet, solid cubes all around a room that has a door that is 6 to 8 feet thick. Not wide or high, I'm saying thick. I'm not quite sure about the dimensions of the outside of the door or how big the door is, but it's thick, 6 to 8 feet thick. Wow, I thought it was 1 foot thick when I first heard, but I'm getting information from I won't even say it. I'm not even going to say it, just for the safety of them. But there's people that are good people within that just I've gotten to know over the years, and the trust has come in where we're all coming together. All of the people that are seeing through this are watching all of the players start to set up their ground escapes so they can go escape. We don't know why that is or what's going on with that, but lately they've been really working on elevator shaft here, and not so much the inside of the building at all. But the old post office is on record. This is February the 11th today. Sorry about that. I've just almost felt like I didn't know what day it was at all. February 11th it is today, 2017. And between now and next week is the only opportunity, I feel, that this area, Waterloo region, can flux in a whole bunch of refugees, and they are going to be overfluxing the welfare systems. But at the same time, what we fear is that there could be people that will be creating violence. And these people we're not saying they're part of the regular refugees or legitimate immigrants. These are people that are actually bought and paid for to come and disrupt Western civilization intentionally. So we need to be vigilant about this, just like Donald Trump is. But instead, Canada's doing the exact opposite at a very fishy time. I will say another bit that if you can get this, at City Hall, they always needed a way to make it to their underground bunker. So they just figured out a way to do it, and they got a tunnel going from City Hall down, and it's going to meet the old post office, and then it's going to go forward all the way straight through under the river. They've already had a scanner underneath there. I've already found the document that talks about Collaborative Structures Limited, the company that's doing the work, and collaborative structures, right? Collaborative means that it works with other things. So a tunnel leads to a building, to a tunnel, to a building. That's what my guess would be. So that makes sense. So thanks for that title. I should just go over across the road to the trailer, and from across the construction site there to their trailer, and just say, and I should just walk in and say, hey, listen, I just wouldn't mind seeing the ground plans again, because that part of the tunnel there doesn't seem like it's going to work out right, and see what their reaction is. But anyway, I don't even have to do that. All we need to do is really piece all the pieces together, and we can figure it out. You draw a straight line from that elevator shaft at City Hall on Google Maps, and you draw a straight line to Dunfield Theatre underneath the stage, of the theater, which is the back of that building too. So just look at like middle back of each building, not the very back, but just in about 10 feet or 20 feet, and put a line from each side. You'll notice that that line goes right over the old post office. I have a neighbor down the hall that said that she could see inside for years, not years, for months, looking all winter. She's been looking inside of the building and no one's in there. There's just lights on. It's empty. No one's been in there working. She said they've been down working in this elevator shaft and that's it. And that's all they've been doing. So again, this is where they've been working underground again. So, then there's a lot of other things going on here too that are matching up to where it seems like things may happen. Another thing being is that I was, I guess lucky enough because my heart led me to having the opportunity to have a radio show speaking of the spraying of our planet of nanoparticulates and scientific climate engineering programs that are affecting all of us already in a mass degree. I was able to get a program to be on the radio for 24 episodes and for 6 months. And so we did that. That's great. But what had happened is when we had a few heavy episodes talking about this or that, but what, we're just talking truth in the matter of, we talked everything from the land we're being sprayed, like the land we live on, the Haldeman Tract and Canada and Ontario and its policies, how they've changed and how no one's overseeing these operations of spraying our atmosphere. And so luckily we had good programs to talk about that. And we were calling out different, professors and stuff. So I found it interesting that Canada needs to have a carbon tax. So one of the reasons the CRTC handed was about calling out a professor, David Keith, and saying he was evil. Well, sorry, but he is. And then the other reason, which follows into the episode of Covert Reality today, that I really need to hit forward with everyone as a warning, that one of the reasons, the second reason that was given to have me, suspended for 3 months, which is really fishy because I originally had a 1 week or 3 week suspension based on something totally that I would like that one of my guests were being lied upon, and we were actually going to do literally press court charges against them and literally press charges for defamation of character because of one of my interviews where it just went kind of sour because of a lot of friction going on in the media right now of who's telling the truth and who's not. So all the liars are just kind of losing their way and showing their evil. And but what the second to get to the chase, I apologize. The second reason was that I got suspended for 3 months. And that's from December, January, February to March. Means a lot of the policies are already written in for the new year and all sorts of things are done already. So they literally had me, the CRTC had me gone. But the second reason was this, that they said that I mentioned, and I found this very fishy, that the reason was that I mentioned that Syrian refugees will be fluxing here and that there could be troublemakers and they're infiltrated in there. Placed in there, planted in there to cause problems. They could even maybe possibly rape or do stuff like smash up stuff or do whatever. It's like G20 stuff, but they didn't really rape, but they did. There were undercover police and really weird black bloc tactic police there that were literally sexually abusing some of the young female journalists while they grabbed them off the street and shoved them with 6 or 7 men, pounding them into a van, and it was just unbelievable. A small, little fragile blonde girl in Toronto was being literally lifted up by each hand from 4 different people while she's squirming, and then 4 or 5 or 6 guys just kind of, they first bring her into the back of a van, but you see these 6 or 7 other guys just ram in there too. Like you could just imagine her being just totally squished into the back of the van. It was like disgusting. So these kind of people are like all involved, and they're all running scared now because, you know, they really need to get ready for massive civil unrest here. So G20, what I'm getting at is that G20, they use that as a testing ground, right? To see how they can control the public and see how they react and see if they can keep them in the rain and kettle them and psychologically. It was a testing ground to see to just train their officers on how to be able to deal with screwing the public over. And a lot of the tactics that were presented to the public in G20 Toronto and well, here I had heard that the Waterloo Regional Police grounds were used to do kettle tactics. And that's getting back to Waterloo Region here. Now, Waterloo Region is where they have civil unrest fencing around their armoury and evacuation area zone signs around their bus terminals in preparation for something. At the same time, this year we've got underground bunker development. Well, not this year. They made the bunker at Dunfield Theatre years ago. I think it was possibly 2012 or 13 or 14. 2014, I think, is when Dunfield Theatre went up. I'm not quite sure about that. But it's definitely, you know, they're just kind of bringing in ways to make some money with their elites. And because they all think they're all actor guys that know film producers, and they have films here all the time. And these guys actually think they're better than other people. Like our mayor and the Monograms coffee owner, roaster guy, Grant. That guy, honestly, I don't like putting people down. But when people mess with me and they don't even care, I just can't even believe it. But anyway, getting back to that guy, actually, Graham is his name, not Grant. Graham from Monogram Coffee Roasters. Literally, you know, Environment Canada even said that they were disgusted and that they were going to take over the investigation that I had brought forth. And then Environment Canada just totally let it go. They didn't even do anything. It was so weird. I just can't even believe it. And even the post office here had tampered with my availability to receive my own paperwork back, so I can serve Graham, so I can serve him papers. I always got those sent to me late, and then instead what I got was a note that said, "Oh, because your papers weren't sent in on time, we have nullified the court case." That happened twice. So we all thought we were going to court twice, and it was because the post office interfered with getting documents to me. That's the only thing I can think of. The city of Cambridge works with the city maintenance division and others in the city here. They all work together. The post office, they all work together. In Knights of Malta organization, secret society, and they have an oversight of no oversight from other nations, and they have unlimited use of military use. Now that's creepy because I live right in their junction. And I don't want to call it theirs, I want to call it ours. Like we all live here together. And so if I'm in Cambridge here and I notice that there's civil unrest preparation and there's bunkers going on and underground tunnels, I sit back and I kind of a little bit paralyzed, wondering like, wow, is this really happening? But yes, folks, it's really happening. So what I want to just say is that we're really hoping that the intel has already warned Canada that if you try it, man, you're going to go down. Because if anyone wants to try to mess with us now, George Soros started investing into enterprises in Canada with his effery in being able to mess with the media. And as soon as that happened, it didn't even take a week before you heard the Quebec shooting, and we knew that was a bogus story again. So it's all bogus. And then in the paper last week, Cambridge Times has Doug Craig like saying, "Oh, sympathy for the immigrants," and it's like, okay, it's a bogus story. It was a bogus thing. People are like really buying into this, this versus war here. They're literally trying to shove down our throats. They think we're stupid, eh? Like, I honestly can't believe it. So I'm really excited about next week about them doing. About the Prime Minister speaking with the President of the United States next week, because things are going to change from that point on for the better. and we'll get rid of this old society that's been kind of ruling us, and their time is up. So just want to make sure that you know that between now and next week, we have a high probability, and everything's set in place, except for the LRT. I don't think that's entirely in place yet. But for civil unrest, they need to be able to move people. They need to be able to control them, create martial law, but they need to have their infrastructure built. And I don't think they have it all fully in place yet. So you see them scrambling. You see a lot of them like freaking out, literally. There's a lot of people and players that have been involved in Agenda 21 programs that are literally going down. So I just want to end off this episode with that. And you guys have a great day. Everyone just be very vigilant, be very caring, keep your eye out, and spread this video or this episode and share it everywhere. Please do that. It'd be great if even you could make maybe a little personal favor. I'd ask of you to try to share it to 2 people each. That'd be great. So we do have some interesting developments happening here. And we are very certain that the world wants peace, and we all want to get along, and that there's a few nations that still want to create control and arguing with their neighbors, and we're not going to have that anymore. We want world peace, and we want it now, and we're not going to put up with it. So I'm just letting you know that all the people that want to mess with us, we might have been passive in the past and tried to give you a chance and wouldn't even bring up your wrongdoings. We'd just keep kind of like hanging out with you and hoping you do better. But no, if you want to keep being the way you are to create bad energy, and you want to blame it on the good energy of being bad energy, okay, that's where you mess up. And that's where we are overall in this fight of good against evil. And we were always assured that goodness would win. And that the power of goodness, you don't mess with it, because it's going to hit you way further and more powerful than the power you had in the first place when goodness gets a hold or uses your energy of that power against you. It's like 10 times more. So, not that we would wish to use it, but if you're the perpetrator of the evil, we will use your evil against you, and just so you can go off and be re-educated, or else you're going down. So just letting you know that we're living in really beautiful times, and you hear this expression a lot, it's an amazing time to be alive. It really is. I cannot believe that this is happening in our lives right now, and most people don't even know what's going on. That's the most weirdest thing about it. But we'll leave off on that note, and have a great week, and until next time.